Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Walkmen Comics. My name's Isaac, and today I'm going to be doing another comic review. This is the second one that I've uploaded, or the second one that I've made in a row, so, yeah, this should be fun. They are really fun to do, so, yeah, I do really like, making them, and they're easy to make, and, like, well received as well, so, yeah, it's just pretty good, you know. I like the comic reviews. They're really good. But this one that I'm gonna be doing now is of Runaways, which came out back in 2003. It's that series. And there's a TV show based on the comic. I haven't seen it. I'm sorry if it's really good. I haven't seen it, but I should get around to seeing it. Yeah, it's yeah, I don't know how good it is or anything. I guess I do have to see it. It's a bit late to sort of review it by now, so I might just watch it for fun without sort of taking note of everything so I can talk about it, and it is more fun that way, and you don't have to worry about that. Anyway, I should get into this review. Heavy spoiler warning, by the way, because, like, not so much in the middle, but, like, towards the end, there's, like, this massive thing that happens that I would hate to spoil it, so I'm gonna quickly go over just a non-spoiler review to start off with, but then I'll dive into spoilers later on. So first off, the story is kind of cool. I just like the sort of concept. Basically what happens is, just to quickly gloss over it, basically there's just a group of 6 kids who always meet up at the same house each year at the same time, because their parents always meet up and they go and do something in this other room, and they tell their kids that it's a meeting for a charity organization, and they get the kids to just sort of hang out by themselves while the parents go and hide in the other room. And basically what the kids do is they discover this hidden sort of passage and find out that their parents are cultists, basically, because they get to see in this other room through a two-way mirror. Basically, that's the simple concept of it, and, like, they sort of run away to get away from their parents because they're, like, scared of them or something, and their parents find out that, like, they know and stuff. Yeah, that's basically the story. It's I like the concept. it's a good concept. And the story itself, like the whole process of going through the story, it's kind of cool. I do like it. Some of the dialogue is, like, slightly unrealistic, but you kind of get that with any sort of form of story, any sort of form of fiction anyway. And it's sort of in the superhero universe. Like, it's not in its own universe. It exists in the world of where, like, superheroes exist. Like, for example, say if you were just living in a normal life, but, like, say the Avengers exist, like there's Captain America and Iron Man and everything, but you're still living a normal life. Basically, that's what this that's where this sort of takes place. Yeah, if there's any other sort of thing that I wanted to talk about, yeah, that's pretty much the non-spoiler review. Basically, I would say it's a pretty good story. Like, overall, I can see quite a few things that were sort of wrong with the story, or, like, not really wrong with it. It's just, like, has a few sort of minor flaws, but I still enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed reading it. I wasn't like, oh, this is boring, I don't really want to read this, you know. I enjoyed reading it, and I wanted to go back to reading it, like, after a while of not reading it, like, after about a day of not reading this comic. Oh, by the way, I read the Ultimate Collection of it. It has the first 3 volumes, and, like, that probably sums up the story, like, those 3 volumes. Like, I wouldn't really go any further with this comic. Like, I think I would just read the first 3 volumes. I mean, I guess if they do something cool that you know about, say that they do something cool that I don't know about, but don't spoil it in the comments, because, yeah, please don't spoil anything in the comments for this, because it's a pretty good comic. But, like, if there's something better that you find that you should read, like what's something that's really good, like say The Flash, New 52. I really like that. Most of the people I know think it's okay, but like say there's something that's a really good series, pick that over this, but it's still good if you want something old to read or just some Marvel series to read. Yeah, pick that up. But yeah, that's pretty much the non-spoiler review. It's a good concept. It's pretty cool. Now is the spoiler review. So if you haven't read this comic, pick it up, read that. Or if you don't care about spoilers, just listen to this anyway. It's not like it's too important, like the Infinity War review that we did in the podcast. Like that was like a big no-no for spoilers. Like you have to see that before you watch that, because you know it's Infinity War. It's been let up for like 10 years, so, or it's sort of been hyped up for 10 years. So yeah, that's that. But basically, yeah, it's it doesn't matter if you don't care about spoilers for this, you know, like just, yeah, it doesn't matter. But if you do care about spoilers, I guess read this. But whatever. Let me just jump into the non-spoiler review. So I think it's kind of cool. Basically, there's Alex Wilder. He's the main character. Wilder. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's the main character of this story. And basically, it's his house where like all the parents meet up and all the kids meet up and stuff. If I forgot to mention that earlier, but yeah, it starts off really cool, and he's playing this video game with like the characters in the game of the Avengers. Like there's Hulk, Captain America. Let me just open up the book. I have it right here. Let's see. So there's Hulk, Captain America, Spider-Man, and Mrs. Fantastic, Invisible Woman. Yeah, that's them in what's it called? In this sort of MMO sort of game. And he has the Xbox controller, like the original Xbox controller from the early 2000s. That's like really difficult to wrap your hands around. He has that. They obviously got the licensing for that from Microsoft. I think that's cool how they sort of add in sort of real life stuff to make that sort of fictional world seem closer to our own, if that makes sense. I'm glad I said it like that. I sounded super smart saying it like that. But yeah, that's basically how it starts off, and then his dad sort of goes up to him and he's just like, why are you playing this game? What's going on? And yeah, it's just basically sort of a stereotypical life for a teenager, I guess. I sound like an adult saying that. Like a mature adult, let's say. But yeah. And then it sort of starts off like just showing the everyday lives of just all the other kids. And then what happens is they meet up at Alex's house. The kids are just hanging out, and then they spot this this two-way mirror where they look into where their parents are, and they're just having this sort of meeting. And then what happens is they kill this teenage girl, and then like they're all just like freaked out. And yeah, they think, let's see what happens next. From there they sort of run away. They like try to call the police, but like the police don't believe them, even though we're living in a world where there's like superheroes and like villains and stuff in this story. But yeah, the police don't believe them. And yeah, what happens is they go to oh yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention this, the kids' names. So there's Alex Wilder, there's what's her name, Chase, Nico, she's like a goth, Gertrude, don't really like her name, but then there's Carolina, I think her name is, and then Molly, she's the youngest. Basically Alex is a normal kid. There's Chase, who his parents are like, I think, mechanics or something like that. Then there's what's her name? There's Nico. She's a goth, and like her parents were wizards and stuff. Then there's Gertrude. Her parents were I think time travelers or something. And then there's Molly, her parents were mutants, and Carolina's parents are aliens. Basically, that's who their parents are. And later on, Molly gets like mutant powers. She can like, I think she has psychic abilities. I don't really know. Like, her eyes like glow purple, and like she can do tricks and stuff. It's a bit strange. But yeah, there's then. Yeah, Carolina can turn into an alien, and she like glows and can fly and like shoot like plasma out of her hands and stuff. It's kind of cool. And then Chase is then there's Chase. He's kind of like a useless character. You know, like he's sort of a useless person, but like the only sort of thing where that makes him interesting is when he gets like these sort of gauntlets from his parents' house that can like shoot fire, and like he gets these goggles. And they're like X-ray vision goggles, and yeah, like without those things, he'd just be a useless character, you know. Like normally, like this has happened quite a lot in comics. Like what writers do is they like to sort of implement an arc into the comic where the hero sort of loses his powers or loses her powers or whatever, to sort of show who they are as a person without like this sort of hero position in their lives. But if you got rid of what Chase had, he'd just be a useless kid, you know. So I don't know, that's he's not really the best character. He's sort of the comic relief character, and I don't really like it that much when a single character embodies all the comic relief in one story. You know, like, it's the story that should have its own personality of comic relief, you know? Like, because, like, let's say Justice League, the movie, this is like, one of the places where that movie fell short. It's because, Barry Allen, the Flash, like, he sort of embodied all the comic relief of the movie, and, everything else is just super serious. Like, he's the only person who has a funny moment, apart from, like, one thing that, like, later on in the story that isn't really that funny, but it's a good moment anyway. But like, you see my point though. Like, I don't know, he's he's a sort of let's say a forgettable character. But then there's Nico. Now she's like a wizard or something. Like, she has magic powers. What happens is, like, when she cuts herself, like when she gets a cut that like draws blood, there's this staff that like comes out of her chest, right? And then what happens is she can like cast a spell, but she can't cast the same spell twice, which is, to me, like, that's an interesting concept, but it just seems a bit sad that like once you cast a spell, you can't do that again, you know. I don't know, that just seems a bit sad. Then there's Gertrude, and what happens is, like, after that they go to her house, and then she discovers this telepathic dinosaur, like a raptor or whatever, and she can control it with her mind, and that's basically what she does. And yeah, I guess it's good that they have like some of them who don't really have powers. Like, there's 3 of them who don't have powers. There's like Alex, Chase, and maybe Gertrude. That's good, because like if they all had powers, it would just seem too unrealistic, you know. But yeah, I think that's kind of cool. And I think later on, let me see what happens. They find out that that their parents killed that girl. It was like for this sort of sacrifice in their cult. Basically, it's like this sort of ceremony. It's kind of cliche, but yeah, I don't know. That's just basically what happened. I'm just flicking through it right now to see what happens next. And when they run away the first time, they leave Molly behind, and like their parents sort of send a message saying that if you don't come home right now and forget about everything and like set things back to normal, we're gonna kill Molly. We don't actually get to find out if they did or not, because like they go back to that house where Molly is and she's like in this sort of trance by, like, she's been put in that trance by by her parents, I think, because they're psychics, and like they just make her asleep, so she's just like completely oblivious to everything that's going on. and what happens is they break back into the house and like take Molly, and she doesn't really understand what's going on because like she doesn't know that like the whole thing of their parents being cultists or whatever's like, well, she knows, she just not really sort of has chimed in and like doesn't really trust what they're doing, but like yeah, they get away, and that's like around about where sort of what's her name, Carolina, I think her name is, discovers her powers, I think. Yeah, that's around about there. And then they sort of escape and like find this cave where there's like a hidden mansion inside the cave, like a destroyed mansion. And like it's yeah, it's kind of sort of seems too easy that they found it, I guess, or sort of too convenient. I mean, like, you have to have some degree of plot convenience, otherwise the story is just gonna be like just not really interesting enough. But like I think it's sort of too easy that they found that, but I still kind of like it though, because I don't know, it's just something about the sort of vibe I kind of like. That sort of goes with all of the story, like the sort of vibe that it generates I kind of like. It's just the rest of it I don't really like that much, but well, like, you can sort of see and like point out the errors that the story has. It's just the vibe that I like. That's a good way of explaining it, I think. But yeah, they find that place, and what happens is they go out at night to sort of like find something to eat, and like they go to this little sort of convenience store and find that there's 3 people robbing it, and then there's this kid that's a part of it, and he tells them that like it's their parents that are in charge, and they're making him like do that stuff, and like his parents are evil or something. The kid's name is Topher. He has a bit of a weird name, but it's good to have interesting names and stuff. And then they're just like, oh, you can join us, you know, we're the same, our parents are like pretty messed up. So yeah, he joins them, he goes back to the little thing, and like before that they sort of set up this sort of plot point where Alex sort of got with Nico slightly, and then what happens is she sort of gets with Topher, and then Topher gets with what's her name, Carolina, later on, and like it sort of messes up the whole sort of relationship status or whatever you call it within the group. And then he sort of runs away and like tells Nico that he's a vampire and like tries to bite her and stuff, and like he says that he's been alive for like years and years. I think that whole arc with Topher is kind of like a bit unnecessary, and if you took it out, it wouldn't really damage the story. Like, you'd still have a pretty stable story without it, you know. That's the only thing about that. I don't really like that arc that much. It's kind of weird, but yeah, there's that thing. I'm just looking at my notes right now. Let's see, what is there? Oh yeah, the art. I forgot to talk about the art. The art is like, I'm not a big fan of the art, you know. It's just it looks like it's been smudge shaded, and yeah, it's just a little bit weird, and also like towards the start of the story, like, or at the start of the story, like where the first volume was, like, they got all the body proportions wrong. Like, there's this one moment where Alex's dad is just leaning forwards, and it made me laugh how ridiculous it looks. I don't know, it just looks hilarious. Let me see where it is. Where is it? It's like at the start of the book. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's he's just leaning forwards, and then it just looks so weird, you know. But the body proportion thing sort of, like, the art sort of fixes like around about the middle of it. I have like the big book of it, by the way, so that's why I have like a lot of the story in my mind. Yeah, the art sort of fixes later on a bit. Like, they make the shading a little bit weirder, and then the art style looks more sort of cartoony. And then towards the end, the art gets a whole lot better. yeah, the art gets way better by the end. But I think that's okay, the whole art thing, because like this was made back when they were sort of making the switch from like hand-drawn art to sort of more sort of digital art, where everything sort of touched up more like digitally. And there was also that weird phase in the early 2000s where they didn't even ink anything, they just like penciled it and went straight to coloring, which like they sort of recovered from. And then there's also the 90s, which is a weird time for Marvel, or just a weird time for comics in general, and they sort of had to suffer for that. But I don't know, but yeah, there is that, yeah. But I've been talking for 20 minutes. This has been a long time. Wow. But yeah, what happens after that is Cloak and Dagger arrives. I really like Cloak and Dagger. I don't know why. I just think they're kind of cool. And what happens is what's the name? Like before Cloak and Dagger arrives, I think there's this police chief that sort of sends them after the kids, because I forgot to mention this, the parents know that the kids know that they sacrificed the teenage girl, so what happens is they frame the kids for the crime and like say that they're sort of on the run because they don't want to get caught by the police, and they frame it really well. And like there's this police chief that's sort of like going along with them and trying to sort of get the kids back because like he can get paid a lot of money or something. I don't really know. I don't really remember much about that, but yeah, there's that's that thing. So Cloak and Dagger think they're doing the right thing by going after them, but it's just at night. There's sort of they find these two guys just graffitiing, and then they sort of go after them, and then they're super scared because like there's Carolina who like glows, and then there's Molly who like has her eyes that light up and stuff like that, you know. So and then there's also like a dinosaur, so they get pretty scared by that, obviously. And they try to run away, and then there's Cloak and Dagger that stop them, and then try to go after the kids. And then like there's like 4 of them that get stuck in the Dark Force dimension, which is inside Cloak's cloak, I guess. But yeah, he gets stuck in there, or like 4 of them get stuck in there. And I don't know if the Dark Force dimension is the same thing as the Dark Dimension from Doctor Strange. Because I've just seen the movie of Doctor Strange. I haven't read any of the comics, so I don't really know much about that in that respect. It might have used to be called the Dark Force dimension because this was like 2003. So yeah, things change. Like they changed the name of a lot of stuff. But yeah, I don't really know much about that. But yeah, they get stuck in Cloak, and then what happens is like the parents find out that that Cloak and Dagger are sort of sided with them. Oh yeah, like Cloak and Dagger sort of figures out that like the kids aren't really in the wrong, and then they're just like, oh, we could make things better for you, we could take you to New York to meet the Avengers. Like I think what's her name, Dagger knows Black Widow, who's in the Avengers, who is a part of the Avengers. So yeah, they're sort of like, oh, we know the Avengers and stuff, we could like hook you up with them, we could like make life better for you. And then what happens is the parents find out, and Molly's parents, they're like psychic. What happens is they like remove any memories of like Cloak and Dagger, knowing that the kids were actually doing the right thing, and sort of put them to sleep, so like they don't remember any of that, so like they're not gonna sort of try and help them anymore. But then Cloak and Dagger don't appear in the series at all from then. So yeah, what happens then is they just go into the woods, like near where their home is. They're sort of the underground mansion that they found, and they're just outside, and Alex has this book called The Abstract. It's basically just a journal of everything that the Pride has done. Like the Pride is their sort of cult, I guess. So it's everything that the Pride has done, and it goes in depth with the story. Like it says that, let me try and find it. I have the book open right now. It says that where are they? had like Alex's parents. They were criminals. Then it has yeah, it says that like Alex's parents were criminals, and then there's like everyone else's parents and stuff, and they were teleported to this little hideout, like that was under the ocean. Not a hideout, it's like this sort of little structure, and then there were these three beings called the Gibborim, I think that's how you say it. And what they did was they just they said that these 6 couples have to eradicate all life on Earth, like in the future, but like up until then they have to sacrifice an adolescent female. Like that's what they said. Where is it? It's in the story. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's around about here somewhere, that they had to sacrifice a teenage girl each year for them to be able to carry on the ritual and later on eradicate all human life on Earth, because they thought that like humans were ruining Earth or something. That's a bit strange. But yeah, they're sort of what they have to do is they have to do all that, and then it says this in the abstract, which is the book. It says that the Gibborim said that like only 6 of them can remain, so like half of them will go away, because there's 12 of them, because there's 6 couples. I'm doing the math. So yeah, there's so only 6 of them can survive on Earth, and like all the other humans would be killed. And what happened later on was they decided that they'd give that position to their kids. Like they'd let their kids be the last ones who live on Earth, basically, because there's gonna be 6 of them, and it's sort of like them living on, I guess, something like that. Yeah, that's basically what that is. And then yeah, they decided that that's gonna happen to their kids. And later on, they go back into the hideout, and then the police goes after them, because like they still think that it's them that basically, they still think that it's them that committed the crime. And what happens is like they get buried under their underground mansion, like all the rocks fall down, and like Molly manages to punch the rocks and like get them out. Yeah, they manage to escape, and then they head out to the to the ocean, because they hear that that's where the Gibborim are, and that's where their parents are, and they want to sort of get rid of them. So yeah, they Nico casts this spell where she makes this bubble where they get put inside the bubble and they can breathe underwater, basically. It's basically just like a submarine, but like made of magic. And yeah, they head to that sort of underground or underwater structure. It's called the Marine Vivarium. So yeah, they get taken there. And then yeah, they manage to get to their parents, which are like in this one room, and I'm just trying to like flick through it and get to where it is. Yeah, they get to their parents, and this is a massive spoiler warning right here. Alex dies, because like, alright, so basically this is revealed that he's been working with their parents the entire time, and yeah, that's pretty scary. And yeah, Alex dies actually. Like, what happens is the Gibborim are just like, oh, this is where you were supposed to make the sacrifice again, and you failed to do the sacrifice. And then Alex is just like, oh, it's because I was here and I interrupted it. And then one of the Gibborim kills him. And, like, he burns him down to his skeleton, and like that's when he dies. And that's that was kind of sad. Well, it sort of shocked me, you know. Like, he's just talking about stuff, and then bam, like one of them just burns him. Like, I was not expecting that at all, you know. But yeah, all that eventually gets found out. and they managed to get back to the surface with this structure, not this structure, what's the name? This little submarine thing that their parents had. And Captain America arrives, and he's just like, "Do you kids have a license to drive that thing?" I don't know. It's kind of cool, but yeah. Eventually, the authorities find out that it's their parents' fault, and yeah, Captain America dealt with it and stuff, and then it just ends off just afterwards when they sort of all reunite and they've been sent off to like other families to live with. I think Molly got sent to Professor X's mutant school. I think Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. I think that's where she got sent. I'm not sure, but cause yeah, she's a mutant. But yeah, that's basically the story of Runaways. And like, I'd say there's no point in like continuing the story, because that probably ends it off. I'm not sure if it continues or not. But yeah, that's how I would just finish off the story there without doing anything else, because the whole sort of purpose of the story is to just tell the story of kids that run away because their parents are cultists, and like that whole thing just gets resolved at the end, so there's no point in just like throwing them on another adventure, you know? Because like I think that probably ends it off, and like just putting more stuff in there would just sort of ruin it for me. So, I don't know, out of 10, I would rate this comic about a 6.8, I think. That's what I would rate this, because, yeah, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, I'd put it about a 6.8, because, like, it was, actually maybe, yeah, 6.8, I'm not gonna go up to 7, but, yeah, I'd put it about there, because, like, overall, I liked the vibe of the story, you know? I just kind of liked the vibe of it. And this whole thing takes place, like, over the course of about a year, I think. So, yeah, I just like the sort of feeling that it has. But just, like, it's really easy to sort of spot out some of the flaws that it has. And, yeah, that's why I'm gonna give it the 6.8 rating. I'd give this story about sort of C plus B minus if I was to sort of grade it. I'd say I'd just give it a borderline C plus, I think. 6.8, that's around about that range. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like I said before, pick this up if you just kind of feel like reading it. Like, if there's like a better story that you have the option to pick that up. But this is just sort of a side thing that I wanted to read and review, because yeah, the comic reviews are really fun to make. I just really like the comic reviews, and just quick notice, we might not be able to upload a podcast this weekend as well. I know, I'm sorry. But yeah, just we've just been really crammed with like our schedule and stuff, and like recording something like this would just be really simple and easy. But with something else like a podcast, like we have to meet up and do it, and like we could do it on Skype, but that still takes a long time, and like the internet isn't the best. So something like this is just really easy. Anyway, that's all I have to say. My nose is starting to get blocked because I've been talking for over half an hour. That's a long time. How does anyone talk for this long? I have no idea. So yeah, thank you for watching. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram. That's basically all we have. Maybe Google Plus, because apparently YouTube promotes your videos more if you go on Google Plus. I don't know. I'm just gonna try that out, see if it works. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video, if there is one. Just kidding, there is one. See you later.